Get Spurs updates directly to your inbox. Subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. See our privacy notice. Could not subscribe. Try again later. Invalid email bouncing back. Only Tottenham could stroll through a match and win it 3-1, yet still have their goalkeeper be the man of the match. This was an odd encounter, flat for long periods because of the low turnout at Wembley, but Tottenham always appeared to be in control. They went 3-0 up before taking their foot off the gas and allowing Saints chances. Thankfully, Hugo Lloris was in top form on the night and kept Saints at bay with 4 top-drawer saves. It was only in the final moments when Charlie Austin ran through and was finally able to grab a consolation for the visitors. This most important thing was that Spurs bounced back from Saturday's derby disappointment, but it was an odd way to do it. Maybe we conceded more chances in the last 30 minutes than in 90 minutes against Arsenal, Mauricio Pochettino told Football London after the game. At 3-0 we dropped a little bit in our concentration and we started to think the game was over, and always it is so dangerous when there is so much time to play. Of course, in the end, Lloris was man of the match because it was an unbelievable action, that save. In the same way I try to understand, it was a tough evening, difficult to play the 3 emotional games we played last week. It is not easy to feel fresh in your legs or your mind. Play or not play, players that don't play are the same. For me the most important thing is to keep going. 33 points, 3rd in the table, and I think a fantastic Premier League season. With everything that's gone on so far this season, it's hard to disagree. That Wembley crowd, the Tottenham fans made their feelings clear with their absence from Wembley on Wednesday night. In the end, just 33,012 fans turned up to the National Stadium, the lowest Premier League crowd yet for Tottenham in their time there. There is definitely Wembley fatigue among a frustrated fan base waiting to get into their new stadium, but their decision was pretty much made by the bizarre choice to designate the midweek evening game against a non-local team that finished 17th last season as a Category B match. That meant unnecessarily costly tickets for a game that was never going to be a classic and came after a week that involved big glamour matches against Chelsea, Inter Milan and Arsenal. The Tottenham supporters stayed away and the away end was only half full as well. The capacity was capped at 51,000, but Spurs were never going to entice that many into the ground with those ticket prices. Pochettino again refused to blame the fans, knowing what they've been through already. Of course it was a difficult evening, but it is for the players and fans and we cannot ask for more, he said. I think we need to find our own motivation. Sometimes this kind of game happens. After the defeat to Arsenal you can understand the disappointment of the fans, and today, this evening, to come here to Wembley is so tough. I completely understand. I hope in the future to provide better performances and make our fans happy and want to come here to share the happiness. But today nothing to say, because to come to Wembley was tough and I understand why the atmosphere in Wembley wasn't great. Another difficult injury. Pochettino's team contains far too many players who are struggling with long-term injuries that will plague them throughout their careers. Harry Winks has a chronic ankle problem, Moussa Dembele a foot issue, Eric Lamela must be managed carefully after his hip problems, Victor Wanyama and Danny Rose have had knee injuries that lingered, and all of it leaves the Spurs boss with plenty of juggling to do. Now Kieran Trippier can be added to that list after limping off late on against Southampton, and the Argentine took a shot at England for their use of the right back. He referenced the odd decision to play Trippier in the meaningless third-place playoff match at the World Cup in Russia just 3 days after the player came off injured in the semi-final with a groin problem. It's the same problem that started in the World Cup. If you remember the semi-final against Croatia, when he left the pitch. Then I think to play after 3 days against Belgium, maybe it affected it a little bit, he said. Now he's suffering in that situation. In situations like today when the pitch is not in a good condition, the groin suffers more. It's a thing that we need to care a lot for him, protect him. He needs to work a lot to protect and sort that problem. It will be a long period for him suffering this type of problem. When I was in Argentina as a 19-year-old, I suffered, and it is an area that is difficult to sort out. But I don't believe it's a big thing. It's only he needs to start to accept that situation and live with sometimes some pain and play. It's not the first time Pochettino has told his players they need to suck it up and play with the pain. It might also mark the start of a new era in which Pochettino becomes tougher with international bosses and his players about how much they feature in relatively unimportant matches. It's something the top managers do, and Spurs have suffered more than others this season, with 9 of their 12 World Cup stars picking up injuries once they returned. Perhaps this latest issue will be the last straw for the Tottenham manager. Tottenham's newest Premier League player. There was a glint in Pochettino's eye when I asked him about Oliver Skipp. The 18-year-old midfielder came off the bench late in the game at Wembley to make his Premier League debut. Skipp follows in the footsteps this season of Luke Amos, who made his debut in the opening game at Newcastle before suffering a cruel cruciate ligament injury that ended his season just weeks later. Both Skipp and Amos shone on the club's US tour in the summer, and their debuts are yet more proof that if you work hard and have the talent, Pochettino will give you your chance, regardless of your age. Skipp is one the club have been excited about for a while. He's a composed, technically excellent young midfielder. Last season he stood out as a 17-year-old against much older players in the Premier League too, shone in the UEFA Youth League and bossed experienced Football League midfield opponents in the Checkatrade Trophy. That got him invited on the US tour, and there he caught the attention of Christian Eriksen, who recognized his talent quickly in the training sessions and International Champions Cup matches against Barcelona and AC Milan. His senior debut came from the bench in the Carabao Cup win against West Ham, and now he has gone one step further. Minutes after stepping onto the Wembley turf to become a Premier League player, Skipp was surging through the Southampton midfield, playing a clever reverse ball into the path of Danny Rose to set up a Spurs attack. The last few months have taught Skipp that he is not out of place among Tottenham's international stars, and his confidence during his late cameo showed that. I asked Pochettino what the future holds for the teenager at Tottenham. With Oliver, it's only about time. If he is capable of working how he's working and bringing in the future the energy and how he's behaving now, I think his future will be bright, said the Spurs boss. We were thinking in the last few months to give him the opportunity to play in the Premier League, but for different reasons it wasn't possible. He's a player that we believe a lot in, and I hope that he continues growing. For sure, he will be, I hope and wish, a great player for this club. Skipp is one to watch out for and will likely play again against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup in a fortnight's time. With Moussa Dembele seemingly coming to the end of his time at Spurs and Victor Wanyama struggling with his knee problems, there could be scope for Skipp to force his way up the pecking order over the remainder of this season if he takes the chances that come his way. With Harry Winks making a name for himself as an England international, Spurs fans might just start dreaming of the prospect of having two of their own in the midfield engine room for years to come. It's a funny old game what a difference a couple of days makes. On Sunday evening, it was all doom and gloom after a North London derby defeat which left Tottenham outside the top four. Fast forward to Wednesday evening and Spurs were back in third place, with Arsenal and Chelsea having slipped up in their next matches. Not only that, but the Blues were beaten at Molineux, where Tottenham won 3-2 earlier this season, and the Gunners drew 2-2 at Old Trafford, a ground where the Lily Whites emerged as 3-0 victors in August. Football is an ever-changing, fluid experience, and fans' emotions follow a roller coaster track throughout the season. Tottenham are among the most prolific clubs at putting their supporters through the emotional ringer, but when you look at the results this season, they've been solid if not spectacular, and they are well ahead of where they were points-wise compared to last season. The weeks ahead continue to deliver games aplenty. Tottenham normally find their groove during the festive season, and they have a blend of winnable and tough matches coming up, not least that little game at the Camp Nou. Despite all of the problems the season has brought so far, Spurs have the chance to go into 2019 in a better position than they have ever been in the Premier League. Just imagine what Pochettino could do with a January signing or two and the buzz of a packed-out new stadium behind the team. It's a mouth-watering prospect.